What makes you so sure? Are you sure you got the right guy, and are you sure he was up to what you say he was up to?
TJ, we have the right guy. Mr. Withers was, after he had been an informant, years later had gone to work for the state of Tennessee and got caught up in a public corruption probe, and it's through that investigation and the release of these documents of that public corruption probe that we were able to verify that he was indeed a confidential informant working for the FBI back in the 1960s. There was a background report that was done in that investigation, and it says very clearly that Ernest Columbus Withers was designated as informant ME338R. And what we were able to do with that then is go back and look at documents that had been in the public domain for years, that had been released under the Freedom of Information Act back in the 70s, related to the 1968 sanitation strike in Memphis, as well as a 2-year probe that the FBI did of the invaders, and we were able to track that number and find specific things that Mr. Withers was doing for the FBI.
What did you find he was doing? And again, you're basing it on matching up his name with this number. So according to the number and how it was in the documents, what was this number, if you will, doing for the FBI?
He was doing a number of things. The first match that we actually got was from Dr. King's funeral down in Atlanta, which we know that Ernest Withers was there covering because we have his photos. He shot pictures of Coretta. He shot pictures of the final services at Morehouse College. And in this report, ME338R is telling the FBI, hey, be on the lookout. A couple of Dr. King's aides are coming back to Memphis. This was just a week after they had a very disastrous march. Dr. King had led a march a week before his death there that had turned into a riot. And so the FBI was on high alert for any kind of violence. And here their informant, ME338R, is telling them these aides are coming back.
Mark, let me ask you as well. You have the number, you have the name, you've been able to match up through documents, but have you been able to find any living person to corroborate the story that you're matching up with the documents?
Well, yes. I initially had a source. I didn't just stumble upon this. I went looking for this because I had a source who told me that that Ernest Withers had worked as an informant for the FBI. That he had taken numbers of photographs for the FBI, that he'd provide tips. He was a good informant because he was well connected in the community. He knew everyone. Ernest Withers got around all through Memphis and throughout the South during the civil rights period. And so, yes, everything that this source has told me came to light and was corroborated when we actually were able to piece this together.
Well, a lot of people saw this initially, and I'm sure you've gotten the reaction as well, saw this as a betrayal, someone who did have such access during the civil rights movement to these civil rights leaders, one of them being Ambassador Andy Young. We had him on our air this week. I want our viewers to take a listen to how he reacted to this news.
You have to understand that our movement was designed to be totally transparent. He was our voice to the world.
But if he was that much of a trusted friend, why wouldn't you expect of him to say to you, by the way, guys, with a wink and a nod, Andy, you know what? I'm going to keep doing this, but I'm working for the FBI. Why wouldn't you expect him to be straight with you and Dr. King?
It wasn't that important to us.
How could it not be important to you, Andrew?
Well, I don't know why it needed to be. We knew we were trying to change America. We knew our instructions from our lawyers were for us to inform the FBI and the Justice Department of everything we did before we did it. We had no secrets.
Well, as you see there, Mark, the point he was trying to make is that, hey, we wanted this thing to be as transparent as possible, so we didn't really mind. But a lot of people, other people seem to mind. Last thing here to you, what has that reaction kind of been there? A lot of people feel like this was a betrayal. Memphis has a deep civil rights history there. So what has the reaction been around town?
The reaction has been all across the board, TJ. Everything from denial, people feeling betrayed, people embracing it. It has created quite a stir, no doubt. And Mr. Withers, as you might know, is a longtime Memphis hero. I think he remains that. And, what this will do to his legacy ultimately, I guess history will decide. But I think it only enhances him as a very intriguing historical figure.